This spinning passive income bubble is nothing but an illusion. It's bankrupting you, and it's taking all your dividends straight down into this chasm.
With the infinite money glitch, you get effortless returns and zero risk. Look at it grow. Financial freedom is yours right now.
Wow, look at that growth. Our investments are generating incredible passive income. Dividends paid right on schedule.
The dividend illusion. Why your passive income strategy is bankrupting you. Picture the ultimate financial dream that's sold to millions of retail investors every single day. It's a vision that appears bulletproof, mathematically sound, and completely logical. Yet it quietly destroys wealth at a scale most people never comprehend. This vision is what we call dividend investing for passive income. Browse through any investing forum, scroll past any finance influencer's content, and you'll see the same irresistible promise repeated endlessly. Purchase shares of a solid company, never touch them again, and watch quarterly payments flow into your account like clockwork for the rest of your life. The fantasy continues. You're lounging somewhere tropical, or perhaps in a quiet mountain retreat, living off these regular payments without ever depleting your core investment. The appeal is undeniable. It resembles earning interest from a savings account, except the principal grows. It's like collecting rent from a property that never needs repairs. The internal logic seems flawless. Keep your shares untouched, and the dividend represents pure profit, a bonus for being a loyal shareholder. This philosophy has spawned an entire investing movement, the dividend growth community, where participants treat selling any position as financial heresy and worship yield percentages like sacred scripture. I'm Boris, and what I'm about to explain will fundamentally challenge everything you believe about generating income from investments. The core misconception. Here's the reality that triggers outrage from dividend devotees every time I mention it. Dividend payments don't actually create wealth, not even a fraction of a cent. These distributions aren't free capital appearing from nowhere. They represent your own money being transferred between accounts. When corporations distribute dividends, they're executing a simple transaction, removing cash from the company's balance sheet and depositing it into shareholder accounts, with tax authorities collecting their portion during the transfer process. Today we're examining dividend irrelevance theory, an economic principle recognized with a Nobel Prize, developed by Merton Miller and Franco Modigliani. Their research conclusively demonstrates that receiving a dividend distribution provides zero increase to your actual net worth. We'll dissect the mathematical mechanics of ex-dividend price adjustments, reveal the devastating tax consequences of mandatory distributions, and prove why strategically selling growth stock shares delivers identical results, often with dramatically superior outcomes. This analysis contradicts everything the passive income industry teaches. The mechanical reality of dividend payments. To expose why dividend mythology crumbles under scrutiny, we must examine the exact process that occurs when distributions happen. Most investors conceptualize stocks as magical instruments that generate interest payments. The truth is different. Stocks represent fractional business ownership. Let me illustrate with absolute clarity. Suppose you own a beverage company outright with exactly $1 million sitting in the corporate treasury. Your ownership stake equals 100% of all shares. Therefore, your equity value directly corresponds to that cash balance. The business valuation stands at $1 million. You decide to distribute $100,000 to yourself as a dividend. The corporate account transfers this amount to your personal banking. Has your total wealth increased? Absolutely not. Your checking account shows $100,000 more, but simultaneously, the business valuation dropped to $900,000. Net worth calculation remains unchanged. You've simply relocated funds from one account to another. This identical process repeats across public markets constantly. When the ex-dividend date arrives, stock exchanges automatically reduce the share price by the precise dividend amount. Consider a stock quoted at $100 that declares a $2 dividend. The following trading session won't open at $100. Opening price will be $98. Markets operate with efficiency. They recognize the corporation now possesses $2 less value per share than the previous day. Your wealth didn't expand. The company converted a portion of its valuation into a cash distribution. This parallels withdrawing money from an ATM machine. Cash appears in your wallet while your account balance decreases proportionally. Nobody celebrates ATM withdrawals as passive income generation. Why treat dividends differently? Why our minds get this wrong? The explanation lies in how human psychology categorizes capital versus income streams. This mental accounting error originates from historical periods when executing financial transactions carried significant costs and complexity. We unconsciously treat share price as untouchable principle, the proverbial golden goose, while viewing dividends as renewable income, the golden eggs. The thought of selling shares triggers anxiety because it feels like destroying our wealth-generating asset. However, in today's environment of zero-commission platforms and fractional share purchases, there exists literally no mathematical distinction between these scenarios. Scenario A: receiving a 4% dividend yield from a dividend-paying stock. Scenario B: selling 4% of your position in a non-dividend growth stock. Both scenarios produce identical 4% cash generation. Both scenarios reduce your remaining investment value by exactly 4%. The difference exists entirely in psychological perception, not mathematical reality. Dividend recipients feel secure because their share count stayed constant, despite those shares declining in per-share value. Growth investors experience discomfort from reduced share quantities, even though remaining shares hold higher value because the company retained and reinvested that capital. Creating your own dividend stream. This strategy is known as manufacturing homemade dividends. You possess complete ability to generate whatever yield percentage you desire from any company you choose, simply by liquidating the appropriate fraction of your holdings. You don't require corporate executives making this decision for you. You're not confined to purchasing slow-growth utility stocks merely to generate spending money. Actually, allowing company management to make this choice typically creates tax nightmares. Corporate dividend declarations offer you zero flexibility. That money arrives whether you currently need it or not. Within taxable investment accounts, you immediately owe taxes on these distributions. It's a forced taxable event beyond your control. The tax obligation exists even when you immediately reinvest those dividends back into additional shares. Now contrast this with the alternative approach of selective share sales. When you sell positions to create cash flow, you maintain complete authority over the transaction. You determine the optimal timing. You can strategically select which specific shares to sell, choosing those with highest purchase prices to minimize taxable gains. You can delay sales until lower income years. You can simply avoid selling entirely during years when you don't require the funds, allowing your capital to compound without tax interference. This strategic flexibility represents an enormous mathematical advantage that dividend-focused investors willingly abandon. Chasing yield creates ongoing tax friction that compounds negatively across decades, substantially reducing your cumulative returns compared to strategies emphasizing capital appreciation with tax-efficient withdrawals. What dividends actually signal. Additionally, corporate decisions to initiate significant dividend programs frequently signal something concerning. This perspective particularly upsets dividend advocates. We prefer believing dividends indicate corporate strength and financial health, which sometimes proves accurate. More frequently, however, large dividend initiations reveal that management has exhausted profitable growth opportunities. During Apple's and Microsoft's explosive growth periods, they distributed zero dividends. The reasoning? Leadership believed they could achieve higher returns by channeling that capital into product development, research initiatives, and market expansion. Their philosophy: every dollar retained internally would eventually create $5 of future value. Keeping your capital was the optimal strategy for shareholders. When corporations begin distributing substantial dividends, particularly high percentage yields, management essentially communicates, "We've identified no superior uses for this capital. We see no valuable facilities to construct. We see no strategic acquisitions to pursue. We see no technologies to develop that would generate acceptable returns. Therefore, we're returning this money to you." While established dividend-paying corporations can offer stability, Aggressively pursuing maximum yields frequently leads toward value traps. You're buying into deteriorating businesses operating in declining industries, tobacco companies, legacy telecommunications firms, that distribute cash primarily because they're gradually liquidating their operations. You're purchasing a melting ice cube because you appreciate the water puddles it creates. You're prioritizing short-term distributions over long-term business viability. Understanding total return. Critical point: never confuse dividend yield percentage with total return performance. Total return represents the exclusive metric that determines actual wealth creation. It combines share price appreciation with reinvested dividend payments. Example: Stock A distributes 10% annual dividends, but share prices decline 5% yearly due to deteriorating business fundamentals. Your total return equals merely 5%. Example: Stock B pays 0 dividends, but share prices appreciate 10% annually because they're reinvesting profits into expanding markets. Your total return equals 10%. Stock B delivers superior results. Retirement expenses aren't paid with yield percentages, they're paid with total equity value. With $1 million invested in Stock B, you can liquidate 4% annually for expenses while your portfolio continues growing. With $1 million invested in Stock A, your principal steadily shrinks. The obsessive focus on dividend payments blinds investors to a harsh reality. They're frequently underperforming broader market returns solely to experience the psychological satisfaction of regular cash distributions. You're sacrificing long-term wealth accumulation for short-term psychological comfort. Learning from Warren Buffett. The definitive evidence exposing the dividend trap comes from studying Warren Buffett's actions. The legendary investor enthusiastically receives dividend payments from his portfolio holdings, companies like Coca-Cola, because Berkshire Hathaway's corporate structure pays lower dividend tax rates than individual investors. But examine his own corporation, Berkshire Hathaway, carefully. It ranks among history's most successful, cash-abundant corporations. The company maintains enormous cash reserves. Yet Berkshire has never distributed a single dividend to shareholders. Why this apparent contradiction? Because Buffett comprehends the underlying mathematics completely. He recognizes that dividend distributions would trigger immediate tax obligations for shareholders, removing capital from Berkshire's compounding mechanism. He maintains confidence in his superior capital allocation abilities compared to individual shareholders. His philosophy: retaining earnings creates greater shareholder value through appreciation than distributing them as dividends. If you trust Buffett's investing wisdom enough to quote him constantly, why not trust his actual business decisions enough to replicate them? Breaking free from the dividend trap. How do you escape this wealth-destroying mindset? Stop conceptualizing dividends as employment paychecks. Start recognizing them as forced, partial liquidations you never requested. Completely redirect your focus toward total return optimization. If you require cash flow during retirement years, don't restrict your investment universe to the limited subset of dividend-paying corporations. Construct a globally diversified portfolio containing the world's highest quality companies, completely disregarding their dividend policies. Then, systematically liquidate small portfolio percentages when you need spending money. This approach provides complete tax optimization control. It maintains your exposure to high-growth market sectors. Most importantly, it aligns your strategy with actual wealth-building mathematics rather than fear-based psychology. Stop allowing the free money illusion to control your financial future. Focus on expanding total portfolio value, not merely collecting small regular distributions. Hit that like button if this analysis challenged your fundamental investment assumptions. Subscribe to Boris Finance for evidence-based strategies that prioritize mathematical reality over comforting mythology. See you in the next one.